Jaren Jackson Jr., the two-time All-Star, former Defensive Player of the Year, he is being traded to the Utah Jazz.
On June 30th, 2025, the Grizzlies offered Jaren Jackson Jr. a colossal extension worth 5 years, $240 million. 7 months later, they regretted it and traded him away. In a season where almost every headline about the Grizzlies involved Ja Morant and his future on the team, it was almost a guarantee he'd be the one who'd get traded first. Instead, it was their other star, Jaren Jackson Jr. On the surface, it seemed pretty straightforward. Jackson had more value after Morant tanked his own, and this trade launched the Grizzlies into a full-blown rebuild. Except Jackson was only 26 years old and just signed a long-term deal. Why would the Grizzlies give up on their young star center right when he's about to hit the best years of his prime? The Grizzlies were plummeting down the standings, but they already had a ton of first-round picks even before trading him away. So this seemed like a good opportunity to build around Jackson through the draft. Surely, by giving him that extension, they believed in him enough to keep him. Or did they have a different plan in mind? Was it really just his knee injury that concerned the Grizzlies? Cause it doesn't seem like Utah was worried about that at all, considering all the picks they gave up to get him. Let's take a look at why the Grizzlies changed their minds about Jaren Jackson Jr. after 8 years with the team.
High arcers. Jaren Jackson Jr. A major rack attack.
In the last few decades, the only center who averaged over 25 minutes a game for their career and grabbed fewer rebounds than Jaren Jackson Jr. was Andrea Bargnani. And, he sucked. This is not good company to be in. However, in spite of his horrendous rebounding, his mediocre shooting efficiency, and being a foul machine, Jackson is a man who teams still find valuable because of his defense alone.
Embiid drives.
Upon joining the Grizzlies as part of the celebrated 2018 draft class, he quickly developed into the player they dreamed of. An exciting center with such a unique skill set offensively, and a dominant defensive force who single-handedly transformed the team into one of the league's best defenses. He fit into the modern NBA game better than they ever imagined. Every prediction, every projection, everything the scouts thought he'd become, he met his expectations, and the Grizzlies were happy. Yet, despite all his strengths, it was his strange combination of weaknesses that made him difficult to build around, and the fact that they needed very specific players to cover his weaknesses. For example, his rebounding. As I mentioned earlier, he's one of, if not the worst rebounding center in history. Even when he came in, his team realized it, and this was a weakness they needed to fix. So in the 2021 offseason, they brought in Steven Adams. In 2 seasons with Memphis, the team ranked first and second in total rebounds per game. Adams, by all metrics, was arguably the best rebounder in the game. And it's not just his brute dominance on the boards, but he also led the league in offensive rebounding and box outs per game. He might as well add another 3 or 4 rebounds to his average with how good he is at boxing out for his teammates. With a fully healthy Adams dominating the glass, the Grizzlies had their best season since the grit and grind era. And more importantly, Jackson's biggest weakness was now covered by this one behemoth of a man. Then Adams got injured and missed an entire year. Now, for a while, there was this perception that Jackson was not actually that bad of a rebounder. Some folks believed that playing alongside Adams hurt his rebounding numbers, and he wasn't as bad as his numbers indicated. Well, with Adams out an entire year, it was time for Jackson to prove it. He did not. Without Adams, the Grizzlies plummeted from the league's best rebounding team all the way down to 24th in the league. Combined with injuries and suspensions to Ja Morant, the entire team fell off a cliff, and Jackson, with a bigger role on offense, did not perform up to standards. Rebounding is an aspect of the game that you'd expect your big man to be good at, but it's not just that. Another huge part of the modern NBA game is the ability for your big to finish at the rim. Whether it's off a pick and roll or cutting down the lane, you want your big to be a threat when he's running to the basket. Jackson, however, is not. In 3 straight seasons, Jackson has been quite mediocre when it comes to finishing a pick and roll, significantly worse than his teammates like Zach Edey. He rarely likes getting fed in the pick and roll either, preferring to pop out to shoot a 3, or setting up his guards to let them shoot. This emphasizes another big flaw of his. He doesn't like playing near the rim. As a rookie, 1/3 of Jackson's shot attempts were at the basket, but as the years went by, he slowly waned away from that. You can call it a lack of physicality, or perhaps his knee problems forced him to play further out to prevent a re-injury. Either way, it's not normal to have your starting center shy away from the basket this much. Only 10 to 15% of his shots in recent years have been at the rim. So these two things, rebounding and rolling to the basket, have always been such a weak part of Jaren's game, to the point where his team feels compelled to get another center who's better at finishing pick and rolls, and better at rebounding to cover both of these flaws. As the years went by, Jackson's career flourished. He won Defensive Player of the Year and made several All-Star teams. But as the Grizzlies imploded from within, the looming decision to blow it up and rebuild from scratch became more enticing by the day. Apart from his monstrous defense, there were other problems with his game that started to become very annoying to deal with. For example, Jackson has always been a foul machine. He led the league in fouls per game for 3 straight years. The dude can barely scrap together a season of playing 30 minutes a game, not because he isn't good enough, but because he gets into foul trouble so easily.
Threes, and so he's gotten back to...
This put his reputation as a great defender in limbo, because while every other team still believes he's great at what he does, there are so many games where he's completely useless because he's in foul trouble. This is a problem he's had since his rookie year, and his foul rate has only gotten slightly better, yet not enough. All of these flaws, and I still haven't gotten to his negative assist-to-turnover ratio either. Dude has way more turnovers in his career than assists, and is basically non-existent as a playmaker. Jackson is a center with incredible instincts as a defender, and I'd even go as far as to say he's one of the greatest, most versatile defensive players in the history of the sport. But he also lacks so many tools that the Grizzlies have wanted and needed in a center for so long. If you're a center who can't rebound or play near the rim, then you have to be at least a great passer or great shooter.
Jackson lowers his shoulder. Awkward shot from the dotted line.
While Jackson's three-point shot used to be a redeeming quality, it also hasn't gotten much better over the years. And he's actually quite inconsistent, even though almost every three he takes is assisted. He's not creating his own three-pointers, nor is he taking them off the dribble. Yet he has games where he's standing there waiting for a pass and still can't hit anything. The Grizzlies have been very patient with Jackson, but after 8 years, they came to the conclusion that this is the player he's always going to be, and maybe there's not much left inside of him to improve. Thus, they needed to do something about it.
The Memphis Grizzlies select Zach Edey from Toronto.
In the 2024 draft, the Grizzlies made a rather surprising pick. Now, Zach Edey was a well-known prospect, a back-to-back National Player of the Year at Purdue, and he dominated in the college ranks. Some drafts predicted Zach Edey would go in the mid to late first round, but he got chosen at number 9 by a team that already had a starting center. At the time, their thought process was, because of Jaren Jackson's unique skill set, they needed a player who can fill in for his weaknesses, and Zach Edey was the man who can do that. In theory, the two of them should play quite well together since they're so different, and the Grizzlies thought of Edey as a replacement for Steven Adams. However, there was another intention behind drafting Zach Edey. The Grizzlies desired to have a big, physical, old-school center with all the skills of a big, physical, old-school center, and if he showed he was good enough, then Jackson would eventually be gone. General Manager Zach Klayman further emphasized this notion and made comments in his 2025 exit interview about his desire for a cultural shift and returning to the grit and grind roots with their physicality and style of play. Edey was the manifestation of a new direction he wanted to go. The Grizzlies had a plan, and Jackson was not in it. Why in the world did the Grizzlies give him such a ludicrous extension in the 2025 summer? They even traded away Desmond Bane, their best shooter, to make room for his massive extension. Plus, it was right after Edey had a promising rookie year as well, so was going all in on Jaren Jackson Jr. really the right play? Well, the Grizzlies approached it with a different vision. Jackson's contract was about to expire, and there's a chance they would lose him in free agency for nothing. They gave him this extension to secure him on a long-term deal. So in the case they do want to trade him, the team that gets him will have him locked up for a long time. $50 million a year is insane for Jackson, but because his deal lasts until 2029 at least, it actually increased his trade value. The Jazz, who got him, felt comfortable doing this trade, knowing that Jackson can't just enter free agency and leave shortly after. This extension makes sure he's going to stay with them for years to come. It was a calculated move by the Grizzlies, and they got a lot more stuff in return for him than they would have gotten otherwise if his contract was expiring. Much like the Desmond Bane trade where they received 4 unprotected first-round picks, they continued to add even more to their stash. Utah gave them 3 more first-rounders. Shortly after, Jackson was ruled out for the season with some sort of tumor in his left knee, which required surgery. I'm sure the Jazz discovered this during a physical exam, but they still decided to go through with the deal. You remember when Mark Williams failed his physical for something that wasn't nearly as bad as this? So I guess the Jazz really wanted him, regardless of his knee condition. In hindsight, this could have seriously backfired when the Grizzlies gave him that extension, because what if his knee condition appeared much earlier in the season, and he didn't play at all? They could have had $50 million of untradeable dead weight, and that would have damaged their flexibility for years to come. It's fortunate he played well in the first half of the season for other teams like the Jazz to still want him, but this could have seriously ruined the Grizz if they couldn't get rid of him. Upon the initial observation, the Jazz gave up a significant haul of picks to get Jackson, picks that they acquired in previous trades like the Gobert trade back in 2022. While the Grizzlies looked to rebuild, the Jazz felt like he was the final piece they needed to get back to the playoffs. They are nowhere near as bad as their record indicates, and only time will tell if this trade works out well for them, or if his injury is worse than expected. Anyway, that's all folks. Let me know your thoughts on Jaren Jackson Jr. What are your thoughts on the Jazz trading for him? I'd imagine with Walker Kessler on the roster, Jackson's weaknesses might be covered much better, and I think he fits pretty well with how the Jazz roster is constructed. Do you think he can help the Jazz return to the playoffs? Or will this go down as one of the worst trades ever? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.